What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Process Sports Radio. Once again, we have Balraj from More Than Sports back. Today, we'll be talking about some big news in the NBA. We got trades, more trades, some trade rumors, right? Also, do you have a problem with stars pairing up with other stars to win titles? And then we'll have some little bit of NFL talk. But before we get into all of that, please make sure you follow us on all of our social media pages, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you listen to, you know where to find us. We appreciate your support, and let's get right into it. So, Balraj, my man, Chris Paul gets traded to the Suns today for first-round picks, Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, and a couple of the players. What were your immediate thoughts when you first heard the trade?
We discussed this last week, so it's kind of cool that we get to go back in this week. And
It actually took place and happened.
Yeah, it took place, yeah. So I don't want to keep it too long because, I did it last week, so... I honestly thought the Oklahoma City Thunder would actually get less back for Chris Paul because I didn't think his value was like what they actually got in return. For some reason, like just a side note, like Kelly Oubre is the one player I really just like because he's like, I think he has a great opportunity to be a sixth man, but for some reason he keeps bouncing around, and hopefully he works. Maybe he becomes like a sixth man in OKC or like even in the starting lineup. Anyways, Chris Paul to the Phoenix Suns, really cool to see that because now that backcourt is what I thought it was going to be, because now you got Chris Paul and now you got a shooter in Devin Booker. So it's kind of cool. And I really think the Suns are probably going to be a playoff team, and maybe if they get chemistry, maybe they make another trade. Yeah. They become maybe a title contender, maybe. And then, I think Chris Paul will definitely like help everyone because we saw in OKC, he developed that team into a playoff contender. And then I think maybe Chris Paul... I just want to ask you, do you think Chris Paul stays there for a year? I'm done with my part. You can go ahead.
Does he stay there for a year? I think he finished up. He's only got 2 years left on his contract anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, I think he at least stays for the least, of course, the 1 year. But it depends on how this year goes. Will he demand another trade, or will Phoenix want to rebuild? But I'm like 99% sure they're built this so that they can start making the playoffs. They're desperate to make the playoffs. They made the playoffs since like Steve Nash was there, right? So it's been like 10 years
2010.
2010 was the last year they made the playoffs.
Kobe, yeah.
Exactly, right? That was the last year they made the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So, it's time now that they've tried. They had like the Eric Bledsoes, the Goran Dragic, the Isaiah Thomases, all these different things they've tried, and it's failed. Devin Booker is sitting there in Phoenix, and he's wasting his talent, and he's entering his prime right now, and you're wasting that talent, right? So adding a guy like Chris Paul, like we talked about last week ad nauseum, he's the quintessential point guard, the leader that you need for a young team, right? Look what he did with the Oklahoma City team that had a bunch of mix and matches of young guys, some spare part players, and he brought it all together as a team, ran the system so well, and they made the playoffs, and they actually did, they didn't beat Houston, but they pushed Houston a little bit in the playoffs, right? So, I definitely think this is going to elevate, as I said last week, Phoenix from maybe that 9th to 10th seed to probably the 7th or 8th seed, right? They're not going to make any noise in the playoffs, especially with how top-loaded the West is right now, right? They're not going to beat a Lakers team. They're not going to beat a Warriors team. Clippers team, maybe, right? We don't know how mentally strong the Clippers are, but even like a Denver team, you're not going to beat Denver. But I definitely think this makes Phoenix a much more stabilized organization, right? They have a guy in Chris Paul who can stabilize that team, be that calming leader that they need, because you can't have a book and be a leader, and he's never learned from the proper person to lead a team, right? He's never had that true OG vet, right? Well, now you have that OG vet in Chris Paul who can teach you the ropes and be professional, right? The one guy who I think is going to benefit more than Devin Booker is DeAndre Ayton. I think DeAndre Ayton being with a point guard like Chris Paul with the pick and roll, the roll offs, because DeAndre Ayton, we don't watch very much Phoenix Suns basketball. He's a very good player, very underrated player, right? Nobody talks to him about. He's still very young, right? Very mobile, right? Can run up and down the court, and that's going to work well. Look what happened with DeAndre Jordan when he was with him. And I'm speaking of DeAndre Jordan when he was with the Clippers. So I like Monty Williams as a coach. I like Chris Paul as a point guard. I love Devin Booker as a shooting guard, right? If DeAndre Ayton can take that next step, then potentially they can make some noise. But as of right now, it gets them into the playoffs, but it doesn't win them around in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it all depends on their team continuity throughout the season. I think they do have a chance to be like, I don't think the Lakers will want to face the Phoenix Suns in the first round, depending on, because again, I think
Now,
Chris Paul being there, it's like maybe they can steal a couple games. Like that scary team that Portland was supposed to be this year, but they weren't.
I think if, like, say for example, if Phoenix does really well and other teams kind of like take a step back in the regular season, because some teams are gonna have short regular seasons, right? So if
Yeah.
Houston could even get up to like a fifth seed or a sixth seed, right? And you play like a team like maybe Utah or maybe a Denver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Denver not so much, but I could definitely see Phoenix beating a Utah team in like a first round series,
Yeah.
right? I could definitely see it. They match up very well because give me Chris Paul over Mike Conley, give me um, Devin Booker over Donovan Mitchell, right? Even though Donovan Mitchell's a great player, I still will have Devin Booker over him.
Yeah.
So I think if the matchups play well, they could make some noise, but in the long run, they're not going to make that much noise, right?
True.
Right. So we kind of talked about that a lot last week, but that's kind of just our immediate shock. The one thing is, man, I don't know what Oklahoma City's doing, but they're just stockpiling so many draft picks. Like they have so much, like I think it's like 16 or 17 first round draft picks in the next like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Or maybe 7 years, I think it is, right? That's crazy, dude. So like what I like, just touch on that quickly, is I love how they took all those players, whether that's PG, Russ, CP3, and they brought all these assets in where now they can either keep those picks and draft young talent, or they can use those picks to acquire, they did with Paul George.
Players. Yeah.
Acquire big time players, right? So I mean, I think Oklahoma City is probably one of the best run franchises in the NBA because like they're always going to stay relevant, right?
Yeah.
And even if they take a year off this year and they go out of the playoffs, right, they'll be right back in there in the next couple of years, right? Because look at what happened with Boston. They missed a couple of years in the playoffs, but they have all those picks and all those assets where they can go out and get stuff, right? Move up higher in the draft. So I definitely like what OKC is doing so far.
True. Yeah. Facts.
Let's slide over to the defending champion and Oklahoma City Thunder again, getting more picks because of them. The LA Lakers, acquired Dennis Schroeder from the Thunder. This guy's coming off a 19-point per game season.
Should have won 6, man. Got snubbed.
He's a starter. He used to be a starting point guard his whole career until he came to Oklahoma City. I really like this move for the Lakers, man. I really like this move a lot. It solidifies their depth, right? It has another option that can make his own shot, right? He's a good 3-point shooter, good from deep. I definitely think that the Lakers did a very good job in this trade, and of course, Thunder did as well.
Yeah, I think Schroeder. I mean, obviously he's from Atlanta, so I remember watching him in Atlanta. That's where he was like kind of like flashy at the time. But
yeah.
And then he went to OKC, and OKC kind of like balled out, even with Chris Paul being there and our boy, the Canadian boy, what's his name, Shai Alexander.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, yeah.
Him. So to still put up that many points off the bench, that's when you're like a certified hooper. So I heard that the Lakers, it's like a foregone conclusion that Rajon Rondo will be leaving the Lakers. That's what many people are saying. Yeah. And so basically he kind of fulfills that Rajon Rondo role, I guess, because he'll be like a ball handler. One thing that does surprise me with Schroeder was like he played off the ball like exceptionally well in OKC. Like he doesn't need the ball, and because in Atlanta he was more of like the facilitator where he was making plays for everybody else and also scoring. So I guess that's kind of cool that he like developed that game. I think Chris Paul probably had a lot to do with that just because he's like helping everybody out.
And he also played some good defense too, right? Yeah. That's a really underrated thing. He's actually a really good on-ball defender, really good wing defender as well, which the Lakers do need because the Lakers are going to lose. Of course, they lost Danny Green. They're going to lose Rondo. Yeah. That's two important key role defensive players, right? Now it looks like they're going to add Wes Matthews to fill that Danny Green role. Yeah. So I think the Lakers are definitely they're rebuilding, retooling in a nice way. We'll see if they add any other pieces, right? But definitely it's a really nice pickup for the LA Lakers.
There's also a rumor, like one quickly I want to touch up on DeMar DeRozan potentially to the Lakers, and a lot of people didn't like that trade because it didn't make sense.
So I mean, like DeMar opted out of his deal today, so he's gonna be a free agent. So unless they do a sign and trade, I don't think DeMar is gonna go to the Lakers. Now, I think DeMar DeRozan is a great player. I think people just sully him so much for absolutely no reason, right? Like people think, oh, he's inefficient, he'll just mid-range. But if you look at his mid-range game, it's so pure, man. His mid-range game, it's like butter, bro. Like the way he can get in that mid-range and make his own shots and stuff like that. That's what the Lakers need. The Lakers need a third guy that can get their own shot.
Consistent third scorer. That's what they need.
Right? Like I saw this tweet. I forget who was tweeted out. They're like, If you get DeRozan, then LeBron can take a month off or two off, because
Yeah.
you think what AD and DeRozan will win you 60% of your games, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, like, I don't know why people are shitting on DeMar so much, just because I think once he went to San Antonio, people
Yeah.
kind of forgot about him, because of course he was one of the focal point in Toronto, and they
Yeah.
had all those teams that are making the playoffs and stuff like that, and he was an all-star in the East and stuff like that, and then he goes to the West, and the Raptors in the title, people are just like, oh, you never need DeMar. DeMar doesn't this. But DeRozan's an all-star caliber player, right? He's a
Yeah.
great mid-range player. People are just sullying him, think that he's inefficient and stuff like that. I'll have DeMar DeRozan on my team any day of the week, right?
Facts. I mean, I would really hope this happens because I feel like DeMar just deserves to be on like a team where he has like a good chance of winning a championship, because he gave his like basically his soul and like heart to Toronto for being there. Like I give it. It's not like he wanted to leave. He just got traded,
Yeah,
and
he
then he
never
went to
wanted to leave Toronto.
and now he's in San Antonio, where like San Antonio's like in this like mist of either like rebuilding on the fly type of vibe. So I don't even know. Like he wants to win, I think. So like ultimately, I don't think Popovich wants to help the Lakers because he didn't trade Kawhi that summer either to the Lakers. So I don't think Kawhi, I mean, Popovich is going to help. But it'd be nice if like DeRozan could end up in LA, because I think he fits perfectly in the Lakers like work things.
Yeah, the only thing with the Lakers was I don't know what they're gonna have to give up for DeRozan, right?
I'd give up
Like,
Kuzma and a pick.
I don't think that's enough. Like, I don't think DeRozan's value is now. If the Lakers can get DeRozan with that, that's an ultimate steal for the Lakers, because I think DeRozan's value is much higher than Kuzma and a pick, right?
What about
You
Kuzma, pick, and Caruso?
still not enough. You know how my sentiments about Kyle Kuzma is, and I think
Yeah.
Alex Caruso. I think Alex Caruso is just both of them are just getting notoriety because they play in the Lakers, right? I don't think they're actually very good players. Like, they're good players, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
In Caruso's case, he's a good player. Kuzma's not a good player, in my opinion.
But
Um,
I mean, our boy's potential is off the charts with Kuzma, though.
you know
And
what? They say that about potential all the time, man. Like, I hear about this potential, that. You got to put your potential into place, right? Like, Kuzma, I don't want to see you tweet out, oh, who wants a PS5? I bought 5 of them. I want to see you in the gym hitting shots, bro. Like, I don't, like, really, like.
funny how
So,
you
I mean,
mentioned that, because our boy Paul George also posted a picture of kissing the
kissing the
PS5.
PS5, right? You
And
should be.
how first year worked out for Anthony Davis kissing the trophy while Paul George is kissing the PS5.
Yeah, man. That's Paul George is definitely looks like Paul George might be on his way back out to Houston or something like that, depending on
Yeah,
what happens, right?
yeah.
But speaking of Houston, bro, there's some big news coming out of Houston. Last week we talked about how Russell Westbrook wants out of Houston, right? Today we're talking about now that James Harden wants out of Houston. And
Yeah.
where does James Harden have on the top of his list? The Brooklyn Nets. So
Nets,
what
yeah.
do you think, A, this is gonna happen? And B, if it does happen, is it really gonna work?
I think at the end of the day, if they really wanted to make it work, it will happen, because I never thought the Lakers would get Anthony Davis, because LeBron was just saying it openly, like, hey, he needs to leave. And I'm like, well, is this going to actually happen? And it ended up happening. And I guess, B, does it work? This is the thing. Anytime you form a big three, this would probably be the most unique big three we probably have ever seen, I think, because it's three
1,000%.
guys that need the ball at all times to be at their very best. And Kevin Durant's the only one that's played off ball, because he's just that great.
He just played an
Kyrie
assist.
kind of played off ball-ish, but then he needs the ball. So even though I do believe if Kyrie wanted to, he could have played off ball, but Kyrie's a pure handler, so I feel like it makes sense for him to have the ball. Like, a lot of people might not get what I'm saying, but it just makes sense to Kyrie have the ball. And then James Harden is like, what, he averaged like 36,
5
37.
points, 35 points.
So basically, James Harden's usage rate, what he's been in Houston, has been like 1,000 something percent, where he just has the ball and does whatever he wants. Like, the offense any scorer would ever want to be in. And okay, now we're boys and we're playing. And okay, who's the guy that has to sacrifice? Who out of them is willing to be like, I'll take a seat back? So talent-wise, yes, they could probably make it work. It might be kind of like the Heat, where they're just trying to figure stuff out, like who's the man. Like, that'd be tough to see, because they're also big, like, driven people. But if I had to bet money on it, I don't think they figure it out, and they probably end up hating each other eventually. That's what I think.
First of all, if this happens, this would be the worst big three ever. Like not talent wise, the worst fit wise.
Yeah.
You have KD, who just came from Golden State, who left Oklahoma City with a ball dominant point guard, and that he claimed that was his biggest reason for leaving Oklahoma City because he wanted to play team basketball, right?
Yeah.
You go to Brooklyn and you join Kyrie, who's your best friend,
Yeah.
right? And you guys, of course, you've been out this whole year, and everybody's excited to see what happens, how you fit, how you're gonna play, because the Nets have a squad, right?
They do, yeah.
And you're gonna trade all those assets and bring in the guy who got Dwight Howard removed from Houston, Chris Paul removed from Houston, and then now wants Russell Westbrook out of Houston because he wants the ball all the time,
Yeah.
right? And who's the assistant coach in Brooklyn? The guy who created this monster we know as James Harden, Mike D'Antoni.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you're going to take James Harden from Houston, put him with his assistant coach in Brooklyn, and you're going to expect him not to feel a certain way that he has to give the ball, right? Because regardless, everybody's going to give up their cut of the ball, right?
Yeah.
Like James Harden has the ball in his hands all the time.
Yeah.
That's what makes him a scoring machine, because he has the ball in his hands all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And like what you mentioned earlier, who's gonna take the back seat? Well, we're talking about guys here that have like huge egos, right?
Yeah.
Kyrie didn't want to relinquish his ball to LeBron, right? So you're telling me he's gonna say, I came back home to New Jersey, to New York, Brooklyn area, and I'm gonna give up the ball for James Harden. Then you have KD saying, okay, well, I'm coming here and I want to reinvent myself and reprove everybody that I can win a title without Golden State, but I got to give the ball and have James Harden on my team. It just doesn't look optically good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just does not look good whatsoever. Now, I get it. Like, you know, him and James have played in OKC together. You know, they could all be boys and stuff like that. But, I mean, if it happens, the East is pretty much unlocked, that then they're going to go through and win. Right? That's just the most talented we've ever seen. Like, it'd be different than Golden State, because Golden State was so organic, right? And you just basically started. What happened in Golden State will never happen again, where the salary cap went up so high, and then our team like the Warriors had enough cap space to get Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
right?
and the
Never
thing
happening.
about the Warriors is that they're all just mainly shooters, and they play that one pass, like
They
to
had
get the
that
best
system.
shot, and they can all play without the ball. Like
Exactly.
this
Then you go
is-
exactly. This is ISO ball. This is ISO ball Brooklyn.
This
right?
works perfectly if you're playing street ball. If they
It's
had
like
these,
it's perfect if you play in 2K or you play on
Yeah.
blacktop. Then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this guy's turn, this guy's turn, this guy's turn.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work because there's gonna be infighting. There's gonna be
Yeah.
so much pressure on them. The media is gonna be up their ass all the time, right? It's just not gonna work, right? The only way it works is this: if they sit down and they say, "Look, we're gonna do this," right? And when somebody's gotta take the third role, and they gotta just accept it, and then that's the thing. That's where the problem starts. Who's gonna do that? And Kyrie's not gonna want to do that. You know what Kyrie's like. Kyrie's got that Kobe mentality. Kyrie's not gonna be like, I'm not taking the back seat, right? James Harden's like, I've had the ball. I'm the best scorer in the league. And Katie's gonna be like, well, when I'm healthy, I'm the best player in the league, right? Or next best player to LeBron, right? It's just not gonna work, right?
Yeah. Imagine being a role player on that team.
You're not touching the ball, bro. You're not gonna touch the ball whatsoever. And like, it's gonna be like all those memes about Kyrie and Harden fighting for the ball, all that stuff. It's gonna be happen, man, because those guys need the ball. Now, if I am Brooklyn, this is what I do. I get Drew Holiday from New Orleans. You get Drew Holiday from New Orleans.
Player, yeah.
You get Drew Holiday, you got to give up less. You might be able to keep like Jared Allen or Joe Harris or somebody like that, right? And then he fits better on your roster because he doesn't need the ball all the time, and he's a great defense.
I feel like Drew Holiday fits well on almost every team. He's just so low key because he plays on New Orleans, but Drew Holiday's a hooper, bro. That guy's nasty.
He's a hooper. He plays defense, and he accepts his role, right? Yeah. He knew on New Orleans that he was. When he was at the AD, he was the second option, right? Then when all these young guys came in, he knew he was the lead, like a veteran leader on the team, right?
Yeah.
Give me Drew Holiday on that team, and the East is still unlocked. You got the East unlocked, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
With that backcourt plus KD, then you can still have other pieces. Way better option than James Harden, right? Yeah. Now James Harden, though, if he does go to Philly, I think he works in Philly better.
That's true too, yeah. And if you're the Houston Rockets, I like my draft picks and these players. I might have potential coming from the Nets, but if I can get Ben Simmons for James Harden and a bit more, like, is that?
Think what it is. You could, say hypothetically speaking, right? You swap Ben Simmons for James Harden, right? And you switch Russell Westbrook to the Clippers for Paul George. You're not really. you're not really like out of the playoffs, but you're still in a really good position then, right? You have a younger
Yeah.
point guard. You have a nice piece in Paul George, a wing player, right? Plus, you can get maybe if you get like a Dinwiddie or something like that from New Jersey, whoever. Not Dinwiddie. But you get a couple of pieces here and there. You might actually have a decent roster, right?
True. Yeah.
But like I said, that's all speculation so far. But I think we're both in agreement that it will not work in Brooklyn whatsoever with those three guys.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of cool that they're trying this because it's like a dream for all of us that play sports is to be like, yo, what if one day like all of us played on the same team and we just
Yeah,
like balled out, right? It's like you get to pick your own team and it's like, yeah, it's cool, but if deep inside is always like where you know like who's good and who's not, but you really won't say because you're boys. And if they're really boys and they come and have this conversation like, hey, we need you to take the seat back, I mean, then you're real boys. If not, then it's not going to work.
I mean, you think about it like this, right? Like it took Dwayne Wade, LeBron's best friend, to go to LeBron and say, "Look, I will take a step back. You take it."
Yeah,
That
it's
must
a
have been
weird.
so hard for D Wade. He was arguably one of the,
He was the
if not
second best
one,
player at the
second best
time.
player in the league at the time,
Yeah,
right? And for him to say, "You know what, LeBron, you go ahead and it's your team. I'll take a step back." Not nobody's gonna know. Barely any people are gonna do that, right? Steph
yeah,
Curry had to do that to take a little step back to let
yeah,
Kevin Durant fit in properly, right? Like it takes a very special person to be able to say, I will sacrifice my stats, my accolades, and I'll let you take. I know that this is your
it's
team now,
it's better for
right?
the team.
It's better for the team. Not
Yeah,
everybody's gonna do that, right?
yeah,
So I
different
mean,
people.
it's very hard. Now, speaking of this, I want to ask you this question because we were
Yeah.
talking a little bit before. Do you have a problem with stars teaming with other stars to create these big threes, these super teams that are kind of forcing their way out of a current situation to get to another situation?
I mean, it's already started, so like, what can we really do? It just once LeBron made that decision. I mean, a lot of people don't even blame it on LeBron; they blame it on the big three Celtics. But I guess like if none of these superstars like hey like they talk in the offseason like, yeah, it'd be cool if we could like ball together, like I think we fit person. I think that's how conversation should go, like when you're working out and you're just like me and you like, hey, let's work out, and then I get like a feel for a game like, yo, it'd be sick if we play together.
Yeah, like like I see your game, we're working in the
Yeah,
lab or whatever. Like your game fits with my game like this way. This would be sick if we play together. Now,
yeah,
where it changes is when you get into actual game situations and when you're not just practicing in a practice gym, right?
yeah. So I don't have a problem with it because it's kind of cool because everybody's doing it. If you're not doing it, I guess then you can be our boy Damian Lillard, where it's like, hey, I'm not trying to be ring chasing or teaming up with these guys because to me loyalty means more playing for one team and just trying to grind it out. Everybody has their own psyche to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I fuck with Dame Lillard just because he's down like that, but let's just think about it in the long term. 15, 20 years down the line, will people remember Damian Lillard for because he doesn't have a championship? That's it. Just happens. It's just always like that. It's like somebody said this, like we say Kevin Durant's championship has asterisks, but 30, 20 years down the line, nobody's going to be like, oh, but he played on a stacked Warriors team, because we'll all forget and it'll be like Kevin Durant just has these rings. So at the end of the day, to me, it's like if I'm not teaming up with someone and I really want to win a championship and the team that I'm playing with is not doing what it needs to do, you can't blame me for wanting to go win a championship because I want to be the best at what I'm doing. But here I am with this, like the fans love me, the city loves me, but the organization here isn't really helping me with doing anything. That's like LeBron's situation when he bounced. But I mean, to me, you have to do it because other people are doing it or you're just like falling behind, unless you could do it organically through the draft.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I understand everything you're saying, right? I understand it and I get certain points of it, right? Like
Yeah.
for example, because everybody else, like LeBron had to go to Miami to beat Boston, right?
Yeah.
Because he needed help. The problem what I have with all of this is
Yeah.
it ruins the balance of competition, which is in essence is what sports is all about.
Yeah.
Sports is about competing, right?
Yeah.
I understand the whole thing with player movement and they want to play where they want to play and they want to play with who they want to play with, right? I understand because you look at me and you where we can decide, hey, I want to live here, I want to work here, I want to do this, I want to do this. So these guys, they're basically controlled by organizations, right?
Yeah.
I understand that completely, right? For me, as a sports fan, as somebody that watches sports, I would rather see a guy like, you know what? We talked about a couple weeks ago about championships and stuff like that. For James Harden, right? His legacy for me is cemented in my mind as one of the greatest scorers of a generation, right?
Yeah.
Now, would a championship help it? Yes. But does that still deny the fact that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer? No.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
I have more respect for James Harden being a player who's like, I'm going to stay in Houston. If you guys give me the pieces I want to win, then I'll stay loyal to Houston. I'll keep on going, right? Whereas now when you want to say, I want to jump to a ship with Kyrie and KD already and create a team like that where there's already a squad there. But then now you got to strip that whole squad and put me in there. And then there's 3 mega stars and we're going to ball out and do it, right?
Yeah.
The Warriors are an exception to that whole thing, right? They were an organic super team that was created, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they qualify for that in that equation because that was just such a unique thing that ever happened, right?
That was built to the draft. Yep.
Built to the draft. This strength in numbers, right? That's what they were built off of, right? But when you look at it, right? Like let's talk about Damian Lillard, right? The reason why, like, I kind of disagree with your analogy is I think 20 to 30 years now, people still remember the fact that because it's such a big moment in history that Kevin Durant left the team to join this team. Like people still know about that, right? I always think that like even if you use LeBron James as an example, right? Like LeBron, when he went back to Cleveland, yes, it was a super team as he built, right?
Yeah.
But you think about why he went back, and there was a reason why he had to lead that team through such a different thing, and they were underdogs as well, right?
Yeah.
That championship in Cleveland meant more than any of those other championships, right?
Yeah.
Now if Kevin Durant and Kyrie were going to win a title in Brooklyn, right? I think Kevin Durant would be the first to admit that this title means more to me than what if I had won one in Golden State. Because the process and the grind to get to that title took longer and it took a more challenging road, right? That's what I was talking about last week. Well, the chips are kind of overvalued now where your legacy is now just solely defined on chips and not the grind and the process that it takes to get there, right? So that's where I kind of stand on the thing where I understand completely about player movement. I'm a definite proponent of player movement. If you want to put yourself in a situation where it's better to win. But I also I don't understand why players are scared of the process of and the grind of becoming a championship team, right? That's for me, like it makes the sports story so much better. Now for players, it might not matter to them. They just want to hit their ring and that's it, and have fun playing out, right? So it depends on what your values are and how you determine you want to be in your legacy to be. If you just want to be known as a champion, by all means do that. But if you want to be known as a guy who stuck it out or went through a difficult path, then totally, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's I think it can go either way. It just depends
Either way,
on
it just
how you
depends on
look
how you
at it.
view it through your own lens, right? Like how do
Yeah.
you feel how do you feel that it's best situated for you, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
I want to see, like, if James Harden went to Philly, people wouldn't be really, hey, like that's a pretty good situation. Him and Embiid, right? They work really well together. If he
Yeah.
goes to Brooklyn, the narrative is just going to be he's a ring chaser, right?
Yeah, true.
So I mean, like you said, like in history, people might not remember it. We kind of tend to forget about it, but like being the sports person I am, I'll never forget that Kevin Durant left a team that he was up 3-1 on and left to go to play Golden State.
See, I always put it this where it's like, say hypothetically, like, I mean, whenever you have kids and they're like, "Hey, Dad, Kevin Durant has 6 rings." To them, it's just he has six
Six
rings.
rings.
It's not. Oh, by the way, you're gonna be like, "Hey, by the way, he had 2 rings when he had a team down 3-1, and he joined that team to win those championships, and they became the greatest team of all time."
Exactly.
Okay, Dad, there's still 6 rings. Like that's what
I
I
mean,
mean.
like
It's kind
that.
of.
It's true. Like I said, when you as time goes on and the younger generation, like they kind of just forget about that. Like
It's just like
people,
how we forget certain things about certain players.
exactly. You know how like
Yeah.
we always say, like, okay, well Jordan was 6 for 6. Okay, well
Yeah.
that's fine. Look at this. LeBron had to
Yeah.
go through whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
perception changed over time,
Yeah.
but like I said, we're just opinion based, right? So like my
Yeah.
opinion wise, like I'll never forget like how Katie got those
Yeah.
2 rings, right? Like I'll never forget
Yeah.
how LeBron got his first 2 rings,
Yeah. True.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's just I love seeing teams that go like the Raptors. Like what made the Raptors so amazing was they got fucking beat in the playoffs every year. They get beat, get beat, get beat. They add Kawhi in and they win the title. That for
Yeah.
me was something. Or you look at trying to think football wise. Even like any team that wins a Super Bowl, right? Other than even New England, like New England always had to go through a little like adversity, right? Remember they won their first 3, they were dominant, they took that huge dip. They
Yeah.
lost in the undefeated season, and they came back and built another dynasty, right?
Yeah.
Like there was always that journey, that grind that every team had to go through, right? So for me, like,
I
that's
think in
what I.
football, like, it's just weird. Like, anytime a team gets super stacked, like the last one we saw where people were going crazy was the 2011 or 2012 Philadelphia Eagles when they just had everybody. And they're like, oh, they're going to win the Super Bowl because they have so much talent.
They're gonna go
And
16-0, right?
and that team was so bad because
It
they
didn't
just
fit.
brought in pieces, but it didn't fit the way they wanted to play in the system.
That's why football and basketball are so different, right?
Yeah.
Football, you need a team, right?
Yeah.
Basketball, you can get away with individuals and still be
Yeah, you
successful,
can't. Yeah,
right?
it's the only sport you can get
But
away
but if you
with.
look at it in basketball right now, even lately, like the Lakers, they won off because they had depth, right?
Mhm.
The Raptors had depth. The Warriors, even though when they had KD, they still had depth. They had,
Mhm.
Iguodala, Livingston, whoever they had, right? Barbosa, whatever. They had depth,
Yeah.
right? You need depth to win a title. You can't just be all so top heavy. You have to have good role players, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? You see guys that are like, no, players have the right to do whatever they want to do. They can play what they want to play for. Yes, but the other side where, like, I'm sitting on, it was like, well, yeah, you do, but you should also have some sort of like value to your title. It has to mean something to you, right? You have to go
Yeah.
through something to get there, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so that's just kind of where I stand on the whole issue.
Yeah.
So we shall see. The draft is on Wednesday. We'll see what happens, what fruitions with the NBA. Looks like the NBA is finally back. The greatest soap opera in sports is finally back and in full swing. But let's go over to the NFL where we have some big storylines. So first of all, Pittsburgh Steelers are 9-0 after they beat the Cincinnati Bengals. First of all, how much longer can they go on to win? Second of
Uh,
all, they're the clear-cut Super Bowl favorite.
I honestly don't know what their upcoming schedule is, if they have anybody that
I shall
could
pull it up right now for
present
you.
a challenge, but I would assume I probably don't think they go undefeated. If I had to guess, I think they'll go, what are they right now? 9-0 or
I don't
8-0?
know. I don't know.
I say they go 14-2. That's my bold prediction. And
14-2.
yeah, I think they lose a couple. And
Let's see.
then are they the clear-cut Super Bowl favorites? I mean, anytime a team has like played like when they play really well, I just don't see too many teams winning, especially when they're undefeated. When's the last? Let's just say hypothetically they go undefeated. I don't think any undefeated teams won the Super Bowl, have they? I think the Miami Dolphins
Miami
might have way,
Dolphins, like
way
back in
back
the
in the day,
70s,
like
did, like
the
way back in
greatest
the day.
season.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, the Patriots, of course, the ones that we remember,
the
but
Patriots
yeah,
should have
yeah, they
won
should have,
that.
but with that crazy David
Yeah,
Tyree catch, right?
that game is just the
So
craziest
I'll
game.
lead. I'll let's tell you the Steelers' remaining
Okay,
schedule. So they play the Jaguars next week.
they win that.
They play the Ravens
Where
as well. In Pittsburgh
they win
on
that?
Thursday night. On Thursday night.
What do you
Then
think?
they
They
play
win that?
Washington.
They win that.
They play at Buffalo.
Buffalo's is tough. Buffalo is tough.
Then they finish off at Cincinnati and then against the Colts.
They lose against the Buffalo Bills, and it depends on if they're gonna rest players. That's what I. What do you see? Do you think they go undefeated?
I see them beating the Jags, and I see them losing to either the Ravens or the Bills or the Colts. So I see them either finishing 14-2 or 13-3. I don't think you want to go undefeated, to be
I don't.
honest
I
with
don't
you.
think either. Yeah,
I
it's
don't.
too
I
much.
wouldn't want to go undefeated. It's too much pressure.
Yeah,
Way
it's
too much
way too
pressure.
much pressure. Yeah.
Like I remember when do you remember when Indianapolis was like 14-0 or whatever or something like
Yeah.
that, and then they basically said we don't want to go undefeated. We do not want to go undefeated, right? I think that was the year they lost to New Orleans in the Super Bowl, if memory
Like
serves me correct.
2010.
2010, 2011, that one of those years,
Yeah,
right?
they did.
Same thing with Green Bay. Remember Green Bay went 15-1,
Yeah.
right? And they just said we don't want to go undefeated,
Yeah.
right? Because it's too much pressure. Like you don't want to go undefeated. Yes, everybody says that you want to win every game, blah blah blah. But if you
Yeah.
have the first seed on lock, might as well lose the game. Then you don't have to worry about the undefeated season, right?
Unless you
Like
want to go undefeated,
unless
like
you, which I mean, which is great. Like if you have like the balls to say, okay, we want to go undefeated, we want to win every game, go for it. But like it sounds crazy to say like you don't want to win every game you play, but like there's so much pressure that goes along with that, right? And
yeah.
I don't. And as great as the Steelers team has been, I mean they've been kind of lucky in some games where they kind of won, right? Which you have to be, right? You're not going to play your best every game. Now, I think if you play them in the playoffs against Kansas City, I'm still going to roll with Kansas City.
Same. Yeah.
Like, and that's crazy to me to think. Like, a team's 9-0, they should be the best team in the league, but when you have Kansas City over there, bro, and you play in the playoffs against Kansas City, and I got Mahomes, who clearly is the MVP now, in my opinion, because Russell Wilson's been shitting the bed the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
right? And we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm still taking Mahomes over the Pittsburgh, no matter how good, even though Pittsburgh's defense is fucking balling out, right? And they have great pieces on James Conner's finding his rhythm and stuff like that. I still can't go with Pittsburgh.
To me it's the same thing, because I've seen Patrick Mahomes go up against defenses that people were like, oh, this
San Francisco 49ers defense last year,
and he just destroys the defense, and it makes me feel so bad, because the defense is like, we think we're pretty good, and San Francisco's defense last year was
dirty, dude. They had such a good defensive line. It's a shame they all got hurt this year.
Yeah,
to trade Buckner away.
Yeah,
but dude, their defensive line after being a Seattle fan, seeing them just get after the quarterback.
Yeah, so like, do the Steelers have enough firepower to first keep up with the points that? Because Kansas City's that one team that's like the Golden State Warriors, where when they hit their stride, it's just like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and it just asks the Tennessee Titans that.
You know what? That's a perfect analogy, dude. Like comparing the Kansas City Chiefs to the Golden State Warriors, because you literally have two guys in Steph Curry and Patrick Mahomes
that look the same.
They look the same. They look the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they also play such a different style of game that nobody else plays.
Yeah.
Right?
Both change the game.
They're both game changers, right? Yeah. And they have coaches that have such offensive-minded, such open-minded coaches, and they have such weapons around them. Right? They have like, dude, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Travis Kelce,
Klay Thompson, Travis Kelce's Draymond.
Pretty much, like you have those pieces, bro. Where like, and it's all organic, dude. They didn't go out and get this guy and get this guy. They organically built this team, this monster of a team, right?
Yeah.
You add pieces in, like they added Frank Clark, they added Honey Badger, right? They added Sammy Watkins, but
dude, they added Le'Veon Bell. They added
the thing was this, Le'Veon Bell hasn't been doing much so far, right?
Yeah.
It's still Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll see over time, but dude, Kansas City's a different beast right now, man. Like, even though,
I think they're on cruise control right now.
They are, dude. Like you could see it in some games, like when they played against the Chargers, whatever, they kind of give you half-ass. But like, who they play? They played the Raiders, I think. No, they lost to the Raiders, but they lost. They played one. I think it was the last game they played, and Mahomes just went bing, bing, boom, like that. Like it's just like when he turns it on and he's going, you can't stop that offense, bro. It's unstoppable.
Yeah,
it's not stoppable, right? So in the AFC, right, like. It's Pittsburgh has the best record, but I think we're both in agreement that you got to beat Kansas City. Show me you can beat Kansas City, then I will believe in you, right? Because Kansas City, they're kind of having a low-key, really good year right now, right?
They are, yes, under the radar, just the way it should be.
That's what you expect, because I think Mahomes is so great, and we expect his bar is so high. Anything out of this world would bring attention to it, right? Right now, he's just happy going with the flow, and he's just doing great things where we just expect it now out of him.
Yeah, Kansas City doesn't. I mean, maybe they have, but again, they've been so low key that they usually a team when they win a Super Bowl, other than like the Patriots, they're usually never good the next year. It's just a weird thing where like teams are usually
Seattle should have won back-to-back Super Bowls.
Yeah, but the Patriots
didn't work out, right?
Yeah. So I mean, the Chiefs haven't had like that championship hangover, like that term they use in sports, the championship hangover.
When you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes, man, he's kind of like the hangover cure, bro. Like
it is. He makes up for too much of like you could play bad the entire game, and Patrick Mahomes could still win you the game.
Like I said, Patrick Mahomes now is my MVP because my guy for my team. Russ we trust. In Russ do I not trust right now? Russ is not cooking right now, bro.
He's not.
Like in the last 3 weeks, barring against San Francisco, where San Francisco's fucking defense is like a B squad. Yeah. Against Arizona.
Squad, yeah.
Against Arizona, Buffalo, and who they play last week? Jesus, just played the Rams.
The Rams.
That's how much the losing is diluting my mind the last month. Right?
Yeah.
You look at the last 3 losses they have against teams that are very good teams, measuring stick games.
Yeah,
they've struggled.
Mm-hmm.
There are weak points have showed.
I think there's a stat that's on the game. It said that Russell Wilson in his first like 7 games threw like 2 picks. In his last 3 games, he's thrown like
He's thrown
seven,
eight.
seven, eight.
He's got 10 picks now. Yeah. So
Yeah, and
he's
you were making the point to me that like maybe the MVP talk kind of got to him. Like he felt like he was just like Superman and he can just make any throw. I mean, I watched the game last week this past Sunday against the Rams, and like some of the one throw was bad in my opinion, but some of the breaks the Rams CBs took, I was like, God damn, like
what
CBs
was
are
his
supposed
name?
to
What was
play
his name? Wilson. He had that one pick where he just read it perfectly on that.
perfectly, and he dove
It was
for
that
it.
out route. It was the out
Yeah,
route. It was the out route where he just cut it off. Okay, that's fine. But Russ does not. One of his keys, he doesn't turn the ball over.
he
Right, that
does
was one
it.
of his
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
And the last month, he's been turning the ball over, whether it's fumbles or interceptions. Right, and just
yeah,
like you said, the problem with Russell Wilson right now is this: it got to his head, bro. Like everybody's like, Russ, let Russ cook, let Russ cook, let Russ cook, right? And then he thought, okay, well, everybody's saying let me cook. I'm cooking it up. I'm gonna break the passing touchdown record. Blah blah blah. I'm the MVP. They're just gonna give me MVP, right? And he started playing hero ball, right? He started getting into like, okay, well, I'm gonna start making these crazy throws. I'm gonna start doing these spin moves and stuff like that, which he can do, right? But it's just like play smart. The reason why you're such a great quarterback, and I'd say like right below Patrick Mahomes, you were the next best quarterback in the league, right?
yeah,
Like you need to play smart. Keep the ball, make smart plays.
yeah,
What is Russ so effective when he doesn't turn the ball over and he notices, hey, okay, I can run to throw he's always scrambling to throw, but when I find out there's a lane, I can run for that first down, right?
yeah,
Make the smart play, Russ. He's not been making a smart play. He's been trying
yeah,
to force it so much. And the reason why I think what part of the reason why he's forcing is not only playing hero ball, but also realizing that my defense is absolutely garbage.
yeah,
That the Seattle's defense is horrible.
yeah.
Like it's horrible. Like I'm not just being blunt with you. Like, their defense is like god awful.
Russ can't
Now,
hide the flaws no more.
here's the thing where it gives me hope that there's hope.
Yeah,
Okay, injuries have hit this team very hard, and not a lot of people talk about it.
yeah,
Okay, Seahawks are missing their best running back, Chris Carson. Chris Carson, in my opinion, is one of the better backs in football. His ability to catch, he's a physical runner, and he's a strong runner with the football.
yeah,
He's been out lately. You need Chris Carson because he can get you 100 yards in his sleep,
yeah,
right? He's a 1,000-yard rusher,
yeah,
right? Then you have guys on the secondary. Remember, going to this year, I thought Seattle's secondary is going to be strong tools. Of course, Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs at safety. You had Quinton Dunbar and Shaquille Griffin. Well,
yeah.
Dunbar and Griffin have been hurt in and out of the lineup so much this year, right? Of course, Jamal Adams missed 4 games, right? Diggs has been there. So what I'm hoping is they all get healthy and they build continuity, right?
Yeah.
Because if their defense is intact and they can play the right way, I can see promise there. But right now, I
Yeah.
see no promise there whatsoever, right? Their fucking division, man. Their division's gonna get hard, dude. Like, it's not gonna be easy, man. Like, they play
Yeah.
Arizona next, and
Yeah.
they just lost Arizona in overtime.
Yeah. Speaking of
Arizona
Arizona,
is just
though,
speaking of Arizona. Arizona just came off a play where DeAndre Hopkins
said I'm the best in
fucking
the league.
said put his
Give me my
stamp. You know what
damn
he was saying?
respect.
You see those. Was it Devontae Adams said, "I'm the best in the league," and then Julio Jones said, "No, I'm the best," and then DeAndre Hopkins puts in the comments, "Ha ha ha." Well, that's his ha 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 moment right there, where he
Is
catches the game-winning Hail Mary over 3 guys, grabs the
yeah.
ball, brings it down, touchdown. The Cardinals win. Fuck, that was a crazy finish to a game.
Insane finish because
Insane.
Buffalo ain't like Buffalo from
Buffalo's
what
a
the last
Buffalo's
20
a
years. They got some good. They got a good quarterback. I love Josh Allen. Josh Allen's a baller, yo. He
Josh
plays.
Allen. Josh Allen plays the quarterback position like a linebacker, bro. He doesn't
He
give a.
does.
He'll
Yeah.
truck people like he doesn't care,
Reminds me of
right?
like a young Cam a little bit without the
A little
speed, but
bit.
with the
Stephon
swag.
Diggs has been
Yeah.
balling out, bro.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs has been balling out this
Because
year, man.
if you think about it, before Stephon Diggs scores the touchdown, he scores on Patrick Peterson. It's like a little bit of statement, like, "Yeah, boy, I'm the best." And D
Yeah.
Hop's like, "Yo, he's
Watch
for like
this.
the
3
last
guys on
10
me.
years, yo, everybody
Yeah.
just been sleeping on Spider Man.
And
That's
see,
what they
that's
call him.
the
They call
thing,
him
man.
Spider
Like,
Man.
dude, DeAndre Hopkins, man, like, he's the best receiver in the game, bro. I got to give it to him. He's the best receiver
He
in
is.
football.
It's just
He's
that
the best receiver in football.
yeah. I think he has the best hands by far.
Oh, for sure. And what's crazy is he's got Larry Fitzgerald on his team, who probably might have the best hands of all time,
Yeah,
right?
that
And
the best
like,
comment I saw on the picture was Tyreek Hill's like, "Yo, D-Hop, those man's got some families now. Leave him alone."
100%, bro.
Yeah,
Like, and like just the connection him and Kyler Murray have, bro. Like,
yeah,
what can we say about Kyler Murray, bro? Like,
yeah.
you talk about ballers and Josh Allen. Well, you got just a big. Like, he might be short, bro, but you might have one of the biggest ballers in the league in
Yeah,
Kyler
he
Murray,
is.
bro. The way he was able to spin out of that rush and just fling it with a flick of the wrist and get it there on point, dude. Kyler Murray, like I say, he is the next Russell Wilson, bro. But the way he's got more speed than Russell Wilson.
Yeah, he does.
He's
Yeah,
got that. He's got that Lamar Jackson, a little bit Lamar Jackson speed in him, bro. And I
yeah,
think, you look at Lamar, the way Lamar's playing. I think Kyler Murray right now is, MVP's not far off from him right now, dude. Like you look at it,
yeah.
he's gonna win an MVP in the next couple of years. Whether
He
he might
should.
even win this year,
He
might even win
should.
this year
Yeah,
depending
yeah.
how.
That
So
team's scary, yo. I like that team though. They got a lot of like players that make plays. That's what I like to call
they got
players that make
playmakers.
plays. Yeah.
They got like that's the one thing I said. Like I said, like in football, you need those big time players to make those big time plays in the big time games, right?
Yeah.
Arizona's got a couple big time players that, of course, make big time plays when it matters the most, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and you know what? Like, what I like about that is like, no matter what, like you had Tre'Davious White on top the whole game, right?
Yeah.
And Tre'Davious White is not nobody to sneeze on. He's one of the best cornerbacks in football, right?
Yeah.
And Kyler Murray was still giving it to his guy, right?
Yeah. I
Where in Seattle, you had Russ wasn't even looking for DK very much, right?
He wasn't. Yeah.
And I get it, it's Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey's a different breed, right? Like Jalen Ramsey's like he's like Darrell Revis.
He's the best corner in the game right now, in my opinion.
I think yeah. If you're talking
Actually,
about best
no,
one,
I kind of doing like Gilmore a little dirty there, but
well, Gilmore's
Metcalf
probably
gave Gilmore the work that
Metcalf gave
time.
yeah, exactly, gave
Yeah.
Gilmore the work, the business, right? But
Yeah.
I think Jalen Ramsey's like that guy. Like he's got like that Deion Sanders in him, that Richard Sherman, that Darrell Revis, that young Patrick Peterson. Where all right, you want to go? Like, all right, let's go, right?
Yeah.
Where and DK is a grown man. Like DK might not be able to, to get by Jalen Ramsey, but DK is a grown man. Like he's a
Yeah.
beast, right? Like, you just throw it up for him, he'll jump up and
Yeah.
get it, right?
Yeah. True.
So like that's what I love. Like we were talking about cornerback position, right? That's what I love about football. I love seeing. I think cornerback is like one of my favorite positions. Just because the guys that play cornerback, they have that dog in them, bro. They're like
Yeah.
on an island by themselves. So, all right, you and me, let's go one on one, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love to see. Like I love seeing like even though I hate Jalen Ramsey because he plays for the Rams, or I
Yeah.
hate Patrick Peterson because he plays for the Cardinals or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
I gotta respect them, bro, because they like me and you. I'm gonna, and that's the one thing like I'll always give Revis credit for over Richard Sherman, right?
What?
Was that Revis followed the top receiver everywhere he went.
Everywhere, brother.
Sherman
Everywhere.
stayed on that one side of the field where he actually it's a little bit harder to say because Sherman played in probably the best secondary ever assembled, right?
Yeah.
If not one of the best secondaries ever. So he
Yeah.
didn't have to. Right? He had Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas behind him always, right?
Yeah.
Where Revis or Dion or Jalen Ramsey, right, or Patrick Peterson, right, they would say, like I remember watching like a couple of years ago when speaking of Calvin Johnson, I remember seeing a clip of NFL films where Patrick Peterson was mic'd up and they're playing in the
I
Lions.
know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
He's like, yo, he's like, don't tell me anything. I want Megatron and I want Megatron only, right?
Yeah.
That's what you love to see, bro. That's what sports makes.
Yeah.
That's what makes sports so crazy. You have two alpha dogs like that want to go head to head. That's what I love with the cornerback position.
Yeah. I think I always told people I love football, and like I've just been like fortunate enough to be good at the quarterback position. So that's the position that most people would make me want to play. But the position I love, enjoy, and play the most is either free safety or cornerback, because there's just something about like you can shit talk the quarterback like, hey, throw my way because your guy ain't beating me. I dare you to throw the ball to me. Just throw it. And you shut him down. There's something about that where you're like, yo, what's up?
Like I remember when Sherman was at his prime, like he was like yawning in the middle of games.
Yeah.
Teams would not throw to his side of the field.
Yeah,
think about that. Like you have a field, however wide it is, right? I forget the dimension, and you just had to take third of the field and just stop throwing it that way because that dog on that side of the field erases that whole thing. For me,
Yep.
that's something that's the ultimate sign of respect. Where you have a guy like Russell Wilson who might be the best deep ball, probably is the best deep ball thrower in the game, right?
Yeah.
Won't even throw the ball to your side of the field because
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey's there,
Yep.
right? So I mean, like I said, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens in the next past the halfway point.
Yeah.
Who's gonna, your Cowboys are still in it. They're still in it for their division.
Bye week, baby. We didn't make much noise this week at all.
You didn't make
But on
any
the low
noise,
low.
but hey, there's still a hope. You're only one game back for the division. Andy Dalton's
Yeah.
going to be back. The Red
Yeah.
Rocket.
The Red Rocket.
You could make a run at the division title.
Yeah, Matt Bonner, what's up, baby?
But yeah, man, like that's
That concludes the podcast, I
that
guess.
concludes it, man. Like
Yeah.
that's oh, by the way, anybody out there, send us questions. We did not get any questions this week, or we got a few. I want to include some more questions, so please send us questions. Make sure to follow us. You know the drill. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you guys soon.
Peace.